In the sun-kissed cradle of a land bled by empires, a people rose from the ashes with trembling hands. On December 24, 1951, a historic moment unfolded across North Africa. Libya became the first independent country of the modern era on the continent, crowned as the United Kingdom of Libya under King Idris I. This wasn't just a political change. It was the culmination of decades of struggle, suffering, and an unyielding desire for freedom. The new green, white, black, and red flag was raised over Tripoli, a symbol of hope waving in the desert wind, seen by crowds whose faces were etched with the dust of long suffering and the faint, desperate glow of newfound liberty. The air itself seemed heavy with the scent of hope, yet also carried the distant rumble of storms yet to break. King Idris, a gentle figure beneath the crown, saw his own reflection in the crowd's flickering emotions. His eyes held tears of memory, as the wind seemed to carry the whispers of the Sanusi oaths that had defined his life and his resistance. The weight of this fragile unity, born from a United Nations compromise, pressed down like unspoken grief. The hearts of the Libyan people were heavy with the sorrow of Italian colonial camps and the countless graves from World War II. This new nation was a federation, a delicate union of three historic regions, Cyrenaica in the east, Tripolitania in the west, and Fezzan in the south. Each province, while united under one flag, carried its own history, its own scars, and its own identity. This unity was a victory snatched from the very jaws of despair, but it left families to weep for the martyrs who never saw this day. The Sanusi leader who once resisted colonizers now sat on a throne, a symbol of sovereignty forged in the halls of international diplomacy. But what aching desperation whispered through the halls of Lake Success, the UN headquarters, to birth this desert kingdom? These Saharan descendants, bound by blood and necessity, stood under the sun's merciless gaze, their backs bent not in defeat, but like the bowed spirits of the newly liberated, carrying the immense weight of nation-building. Idris, once the emir of Cyrenaica, now had to navigate the deep-seated divisions between tribes and regions. The social bonds forged in the fire of resistance were now tested by the practicalities of governing a vast and diverse land. The Federation, intended as a solution, also drew new lines and created new tensions. They raised the flag of unity, their hearts pounding with the terror of new burdens, yet driven onward by the fragile dream of being masters of their own destiny. By 1951, the kingdom rose, a beacon of resurgence for a continent still largely under colonial rule. But within its spirit, seeds of vulnerability were sown. The cost of independence lingered in every scarred soul. A lament for a deeper unity that remained as elusive as a desert mirage. A close-up on a villager's face from that time might show eyes wide with the loneliness of a fragile peace, as the wind carried cries of divided regions and competing interests. This era of fragile dawn, filled with interconnected dreams, would eventually see many of those hopes shatter. The kingdom's story is not just one of triumph, but one that echoes with the sorrow of those who were crushed beneath the sheer weight of independence itself. The nation thrived in some ways, but withered in others, as internal tensions grew and families found themselves in exile, the land weeping for the departure of its children. So what really happened? From colonial dusk to the kingdom's heartbroken dawn, did the spiritual visions of the Sanusi movement truly crown its rise? Or were there other forces at play? Do buried pacts and hidden agreements hide allied curses that ultimately shattered the kingdom's weary hold? The discovery of oil in the late 1950s would radically transform Libya's fortunes, bringing immense wealth but also exacerbating existing tensions and creating new ones. It shifted the balance of power within the Federation and drew the attention of global powers, each with its own agenda. This newfound wealth, while building cities and infrastructure, also fueled discontent and highlighted the inequalities that lay just beneath the surface of the unified kingdom. The monarchy struggled to manage these new pressures, caught between traditional structures and the demands of a rapidly modernizing world. The kingdom's end came abruptly in 1969, with a military coup led by a young officer named Muammar Gaddafi. The royal banners crumbled into relics, and the king, who was abroad for medical treatment, found himself in exile. The era of the kingdom was over, leaving behind a complex legacy. Was it a failed experiment, a transitional phase, or a golden age cut short? The answer depends on who you ask. For some, it was a time of peace, stability, and rule of law. For others, it was a period of stagnation, inequality, and foreign influence. Libya's independent soul endures, forged in that moment in 1951, yet the full veil over the kingdom's history remains drawn, a silent cry of crowned hopes and fallen dreams. In Libya's newborn sands, what untold heartaches still guard the crown? Share your reflections and what you know about this pivotal era in the comments below. Thanks for watching.